And Christy. Right, any dialogue, any questions? All in favor? Thank you. So we will start off with the election of the board chair. I will call for nominations the first time for the position of chair of the board of school district number 71 Comox Valley for the 23-24 term.
Just call it out.
Yep, betcha.
I'd like to nominate Michelle Waite for board chair, please.
Accept the nomination.
Thanks to my nominator, I accept.
Call for nominations a second time. Hearing none, call for nominations a third and final time.
Let's nominate Susan Leslie.
Thank you. Do you accept the nomination?
No. Just, I would like to go with the nomination of Michelle.
Very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Being no other nominations, declare Michelle Waite as the chair for the board for the 2023-24 term. Congratulations.
So next, under board elections is the election of the vice chairperson. And I would like to call for the first time for nominations for the position of vice chairperson of the Board of Education of School District number 71 Comox Valley. Trustee McConnell-Keen.
I would like to nominate Trustee Howe.
Trustee Howe, would you accept the nomination?
Yeah, I'll accept.
Yes.
Yes.
Call for the second time for nominations. Trustee Aldinger.
I'd like to nominate Trustee Leslie.
Trustee Leslie, will you accept the nomination?
I will.
For the third and final call for the position of vice chairperson. Being no further nominations and seeing that we have two candidates, we would like to offer the candidates each 2 minutes, up to 2 minutes, if they would like to say a few words. And I generally do this in reverse order. And I'm looking to make sure I have my timer on my phone, so bear with me a second while I find that. So I will be, when I get my timer ready, I will be asking Trustee Leslie, then Trustee Howe. Just if somebody else has a timer faster than me.
I do.
No? Okay, I have a good one on here. I got two. Ready?
I'm good.
Shannon's got one? Okay. But thank you. So Shannon, would you let the candidate know when they can begin to speak and then give them, and when they get to 30 seconds remaining, give them a warning? Thank you.
3, 2, 1, start. Thank you so much for the nomination. I learned a lot in the first year, so much more to go in the process of learning. And regardless of who is in the position, it doesn't change. The board is, we are a board of 7. And I think that my passion in the field that everyone knows that I'm obviously very passionate about. I'll be here to support you all in that field, regardless of where I sit on our board. So what I will put forward is the optics of stability. And I think that that's, for me, something that I considered, especially in terms of a board chair. And that would be a one reason why I would like to kind of stay in the position for at least 1 more year. Thank you.
It's within time. I'll let our timekeeper do a reset.
2, 1, go.
Yeah, I mean, I believe I have the experience to offer support to the board chair. I have time right now in my schedule to do it, which I haven't had in previous years. I truly respect everybody at the board table. And I think I'll just leave it up to the board's will. Everyone knows me pretty well here. I think I'm a good communicator, so everyone understands where I'm coming from, and I'd be happy to serve if that was the will of the board.
Thank you very much to both of the candidates.
That's great.
And so the trustees should all have a blue piece of paper in front of them. That's
Just to confirm, this is a secret ballot. So once you've written on your nomination, we'll pass the blue box around. We'll get Craig to grab it at the far end, and then Craig and I can slide out and collect the ballots.
Blue box and blue ballots.
I know.
And
Just your tie.
in case the trustees don't know, you can vote for yourself. Just, it has been a question that's been asked before. So it's just a piece.
I should have a.
I feel like you should too.
That is.
Underdressed for the role tonight.
It's a nice shirt.
If we're.
And that's coordinated.
Right?
Doing good.
Thank you. Chair, trustee Leslie is re-elected as vice chair.
Congratulations.
Thank all the trustees for putting their names forward for that position. And next is the election of the BC School Trustee Association Provincial Council Representative, followed by the election for the alternate. So I'm going to call for nominations for the position of BCSTA Provincial Councillor for 2023-2024. Trustee Aldinger.
I'd like to nominate Trustee Howe.
And second call, oh, sorry, different way than I normally do it. Trustee Howe, will you accept the nomination for BCSTA Provincial Councillor?
Yes, sure, I'll accept.
You. Second, I'm calling for the second time for nominations for the position of BCSTA Provincial Councillor for 2023-24. And for the third and final call for the nomination for the position of BCSTA Provincial Councillor for 2023-2024. Great. Seeing that there is only one nomination that has been accepted, I'm going to share that you have been acclaimed, Trustee Howe, in the position for the BCSTA Provincial Councillor. Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right, next we move on to the election of the BCSTA Provincial Councillor Alternate. And I'm going to call for nominations for the first time for the BCSTA Provincial Councillor Alternate for 2023, 2024. And I saw two hands that felt like they went up almost at the very same time. And I'm going to go and ask Trustee Howe.
I was going to nominate trustee Aldinger.
Okay. Thank you. And then Trustee Leslie. Okay. Then I'm going to do a second call for nominations for the Provincial Council Alternate. Oh, I'm sorry, I did it again. Thank you. This is not how I normally run elections, even with a script. Trustee Aldinger, would you accept the nomination? Please. Great. Thank you, Superintendent. All right, did I do the full second time? I will do the second call for nominations. And I will do the third call for nominations for the BCSTA Provincial Councillor Alternate for 2023-24. Seeing no further nominations, I declare Trustee Aldinger our alternate for the BCSTA Provincial Council. Congratulations. All right, I'll see if I can get it right when I turn the page over. Let me underline where I'm supposed to say that. If I can get it right. Okay, I'm calling for nominations for the position of BCPC Trustee Representative for 23-24. Trustee Howe.
I'll nominate trustee McConnell-Keane.
Trustee McConnell-Keane, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
I'm calling for a second time for the nominations for the position of BCPC Trustee Representative. And the third and final call for the position of BCPC Trustee Representative. Nominations are now closed, and as there was one accepted nomination, congratulations, Trustee McConnell-Keane. Next, and almost last on our list of board election processes, is the nominations for the BCPC Trustee Representative Alternate for 2023-2024. Trustee Leslie?
I would like to nominate Trustee Kristen Mesa.
And Trustee Masak, will you accept the nomination?
Sure.
Got it right that time? For the second time, I'm calling for nominations for the BCPC Trustee Rep Alternate for 2023-24. Third and final call for trustee nominations. Third and final call for nominations for the BCPC Trustee Rep Alternate 2023-24. Now closed. One trustee that has accepted the nomination. Congratulations, Trustee Masak. And lastly, we would like a trustee to move that the ballots from the board elections be destroyed. Trustee McConnell-Keane moves it, and Trustee Aldinger seconds. All those in favor? Down, that's carried. Moving on. To number 4, item number 4 in our regular board meeting. We trust, go ahead, Masak.
That the Board of Education of School District Number 71 Comox Valley adopt the October 24th, 2023 regular public board meeting minutes as presented.
Seconded by Trustee Howe. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Down, opposed? Carried. Thank you. We have no unfinished business. Under item number 6, record of in-camera meeting minutes and reports. There are 2 items, October 24th, 2023, regular in-camera meeting, and November 14th, 2023, closed committee of the whole. Number 7 is the board chair report. No written report. I would like to share how much work all of our trustees have done together recently. How many hours that we've spent together working with our superintendent, our secretary treasurer, and other members of the district, the planning sessions that we've done, and the hours that we just recently spent this weekend at the BCSDA Academy, and all of that work that we're doing on behalf of our district to increase the life chances for all of the students in our district. And I just want to thank all of the trustees for all of their time and commitment that they've been putting forward. Next, I'm going to move on to item number 8, which is presentations and delegations. And we have 2 presentations tonight to share, and the first one is on the Accessibility Act, and I'd like to welcome our Ryan to our Vice Principal of Inclusive Ed and the Accessibility Committee to start the presentation for us.
So Chair Wade, I'll just introduce Tara. I'm very fortunate in Inclusive Ed to work with quite a talented team, and Tara is the Vice Principal of Inclusive Ed. But for those of you who know her previously, she's a very talented outreach counselor. She supports all the counselors in the district, all our youth and family workers. She's actually probably the first person into every critical incident that's occurred in our district over the last 10 or 15 years. It's probably one of the most important things she does is run what's called Counselor's Corner. And that's where she provides all the resources for our district that anyone can access. So Tara fortunately chairs our accessibility committee, and she will let everyone know where we're at as a district there right now. So Tara.
Thanks, Sean. And thank you for having me here tonight. I really appreciate being back again and representing our team who are working on this accessibility project. Back in the spring of last year, well, actually, I'll start here. So legislation in British Columbia was passed that all municipalities and school districts have an accessibility committee. That was passed in 2021. And we had until this past September to get our projects off the ground and get started. We did get a little bit of help from Felicity at North Island College just to get our feet under us and have a bit of a better idea of what this could look like. There weren't a lot of guidelines to it, which was great because it's giving us a lot of flexibility in how we want this project to look and our committee to look. But the guidelines we were given were 3 main parts to the BC legislation throughout the province. And one was the very first one that we tackled last spring was to establish an accessibility committee. And we put out applications to our community, to parents, to staff, to see who would be interested in coming forward. And I was pleasantly surprised with how many people came forward and were interested in contributing to making our schools more accessible. Members of the board, members from senior leadership and administrators and myself sat down together and we decided on a short list of the people who would be involved. And that was a really difficult process. There were very, very talented and experienced people who wanted to be part of this committee. And so we decided to go small to start with plans to possibly grow the committee in the future. So On that committee, the requirements are that at least half the committee members have a disability of their own or support or work with those who do have disabilities, and at least one member of the committee needs to be Indigenous. So we shortened our committee down to 7 members. We followed Alliance BC's recommendations to start small, as I mentioned. And as we develop our process, we can grow that. We could go as small as 5 people and up to, I guess, as many as the boardroom could hold, probably much bigger. The legislation is ongoing, so each of our members on the committee right now are committed for 2 years to the committee and to being involved. And our committee is an advisory group only. So we are not making any big decisions. We are taking information that I'll talk about in a moment around feedback and learning more about accessibility in our schools and making some recommendations, but we're not a working committee in that we're not making any final decisions on changes that we'll make. We have already met with some people who are working in the district in inclusive education, and they've brought some ideas forward for areas where we could increase accessibility in our school. As I mentioned, some of these points here. The final one, just recent speakers include AAC devices, talking about communication boards on playgrounds as a possibility, talking about closed captioning opportunities for meetings like this, which might be something that we can look at doing in the future. So those of us on the committee are all broadening our awareness of just some simple things, and that will move into more complex things that we can be doing in the schools. The second part of the legislation is to create an accessibility plan, and this is our start. It definitely needs some holes filled as we move forward and gather data and get a better understanding of what this can look like in our district. So this is what the document is looking like at this point with the table of contents you can see on the right. So it's fairly robust, and there's a lot of ideas. At first, I wasn't sure how to start, but it's kind of taking on a life of its own, and it's quite exciting. Some of the things that are happening, even just today, I was speaking with Sean about people coming forward and willing to provide certain services to our committee to better get a handle on what's going on in the district and how we can improve accessibility. The third part of the legislation is to develop a mechanism for public feedback. And we started doing that by putting together a survey. A committee of our committee got together and came up with the questions that we wanted to survey the public and our students and staff on. We have presented to all of our inclusive ed staff, all administrators, the counseling staff and the learning support teachers, and the principals have taken it forward and presented to their staffs. Our hope is that parents, community members, and students will all have a voice in this. And so we've actually asked our inclusive ed staff to also go through the survey with the students that they're working with and help them to fill out the survey, whether that means scribing for them, typing for them, that sort of thing. We do have an email address, as you can see in red on the screen. We have a QR code. This will be available to each of you in the PowerPoint presentation. And I guess I made those a bit small, but if you look at the bottom on the far left, that's our main district page, SD 71. And if you go to the very first tab, which is our schools, that'll take you to the second picture, and it's the top blue link in the second column, which is accessibility in our schools. And when you scroll down, there's a little bit of information up top, and when you scroll down, you can see the 4 questions. It's a short survey, but we are getting a few back, and we definitely like a lot more because we want any recommendations we make to be representative of what our community and our students and parents are seeing in our schools that are potential hurdles to accessing education for all of our students. There are 8 main areas. Sorry, I'll just talk about that briefly, this one. So when you do get the link, I encourage each of you, our trustees, and anyone else here, if you haven't filled it out already, to please follow those links and fill in the survey yourself on what accessibility is like in the schools for you. If there's any hurdles to gathering information or other things. Also, and we don't open this up to the community, but I encourage any of you who do have feedback, please feel free to email me directly, and I'm happy to include that in our results. I'll briefly go over, this is on the website, but there are 8 areas of accessibility that that I've outlined on the website that we would like people to give us feedback on. The obvious ones are physical accessibility, and I'm getting lots of those back. If there's a staircase or an elevator that's difficult to access, that sort of thing. And I'll just go through these quickly. One is around employment, hiring practices and workplace standards. Is my work accessible to me? One of our committee members who works for the district said on her application, and she said that I could share this, she said, I don't notice at work that I have a disability because of the accommodations that are put in place for me. And I thought that was so powerful. And it's kind of the gold standard that we should be striving for everyone who works for our district. Delivery of services, getting goods, services programs, accessibility and meetings. The third one is the built environment, as I mentioned. The fourth is information and communications. So as I said, doing closed captioning in some of our meetings and public events where perhaps children who are nonverbal or require devices to understand what's going on, deaf and hard of hearing students and families could access the information that we're sharing. Transportation is another one. Buses, ferries, parking, field trips in particular. Health, services, mental health and wellness, sexual health, consent, nursing support. Is that accessible to all of our students equally? And if not, we hope to recognize the hurdles that are getting in the way. Education, anti-bullying, academic adaptations, universal design for learning, Indigenous ed, anti-racism, diversity learning, tolerance and awareness, SOGI, and social emotional learning. And finally, procurement, acquiring materials and resources designed to meet accessibility requirements. And finally, and most importantly, our commitment as a district is to be an inclusive learning community that embraces diversity, fosters relationships, empowers all learners to have a positive impact on the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report. Trustees, do you have any questions? Oh, I see one. Yeah, I'm just checking. So I have Trustee Caton, then Trustee McConnell-Keene, and Trustee Leslie.
First of all, I apologize, my voice is gone. It's nothing on that one there. I have 2 questions, and it's just concerning student voice. And I'm wondering, you talk about advisory in that one there, and you talk about that you have students that are part of the advisory committee, because often students within the system are the most knowledgeable of what works and doesn't work, whether it's opening the door, the playground, also being able to go with their class on field trips and some of the challenges they have. And that's what I'd be wanting to know, is that are we ensuring that we've got that student voice? And when we look at the extracurricular activities that some of the classrooms do, whether it's going to mini golf or the beach, how is that being supported to accessible for all students? So that would be my question, and hope that we're listening to students in this process.
Great, thank you. Can I address the questions right now? So in terms of your first, or to respond to your first question, if you had asked me that in June, I would have had a different answer than I do now. When we started the committee, we did have one of our students who's on the committee, who has a disability, is Indigenous, and was a student of ours, graduate in June. So he is still on the committee, and he's no longer a student of ours, but he is a student at North Island College and is very invested in our district. So currently we don't, but I do agree with you. I think as we expand our committee, having more students on it is important, certainly. With respect to field trips and accessing community, I think that's something that recognizing that each municipality is also responsible for having their own committee, and we are liaising between the two. So one of our committee members is also sitting on the Comox Valley Accessibility Committee, and bringing information from the school district and struggles that we might have in accessing the community on such things like field trips. And they're also able to contribute to our committee in that way. So it's definitely a dialogue that's happening. And as I mentioned, having it as one of our 8 topics, it's something that we value and hope to get more information on. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee McCallum.
I mainly just wanted to mention something that's been, if I may briefly, like a celebration that I've certainly heard is the generating of conversation around the community since the work you and your colleagues are doing has really already brought to the surface some real quick turnaround barriers that I've already heard have been addressed too. So particularly in island communities, especially, I've heard with the work through their secretary treasurer and superintendent, how quickly those needs are being met and those concerns are being addressed. So I'm just thankful for how conversations are opening up and then working together. So thank you.
Thank you for that feedback. Thank you.
Trustee Leslie.
I think I probably missed it, but I'm sure you answered this. It's a clarification. In terms of your survey, how do others know to fill it out? So it's gone out in some way to the community. I heard that students are being supported in filling it out, et cetera, in schools. And so if you could say that again, because I somehow missed it.
Thanks, Susan. I probably didn't mention it clearly enough. So it is a bit of a hurdle for us in getting as much information as we would like. I don't have as much feedback as I would like from the community. So we've presented to all of our staff. Principals have presented to their staffs and have sent it out to their community, so to their parents via newsletter. Some of them have put it on their school websites. I know just recently NIDE sent it out to the principal at NIDE sent it out to the entire community in British Columbia who take advantage of NIDES. And I knew shortly after he sent it out, because I started getting lots of distance ed, I wouldn't say lots of, but several distance ed pieces of feedback from around the province, which was helpful. Again, I think a lot of it has to do with us generating conversations. I encourage each of you in the areas that you represent to generate that conversation and invite people to give us that feedback. We're also just in discussion about how we can actually get out to the schools and have a team of people going and doing a makeshift kind of audit. Those decisions haven't been made yet, but to gather that information where that committee would have parents and students and community members and staff on it.
Trustee Leslie, I spent the day in a wheelchair. I had a student who tell me repeatedly some of the challenges he was experiencing. And so he asked me if I would live it with him, and went around the school and learned so much about what we take for granted. So much more than just the physical structure that we often see, the push buttons, the ramps. And it's something that student's on the committee. And it's something that will hopefully resonate through all our schools so that we can all experience the challenges that we need to do everything we can to change. And like I said, it's much more than physical. It's materials, it's closed caption, it's hiring practices, it's education, it's all there.
Thank you for sharing that. I'll share my granddaughter as well. Participated in wheelchair opportunity at her school, and the insights she had were quite remarkable when she came home to students. Thank you for that experience for those students.
Thank you for the presentation. It's nice to hear a little more about the work that's being done. I have two curiosities. One is around, I think you mentioned there's 7 members, and not looking for names, but just kind of what parts of the district the 7 members come from. I think you mentioned 1 student and certainly 1 staff. And then my second curiosity is whether there's been outreach to DPAC to try and just use that avenue for generating more information and knowledge with the parent community.
Great. So yes, there's 1 student, Sean and myself. We have some members from our inclusive ed staff representing different areas. We have somebody from the CDA as a community member, but also bringing knowledge from her work with students with disabilities. Anybody?
There's 7 members right now. And across the province, people had different ideas because the legislation was quite open. And the recommendation that we were provided by accessibility was to keep it small, and then as you see gaps that are unique to your community, then you fill those gaps in. And so that's where it's at right now. Yeah, there's 7 members, community students, deaf and hard of hearing teacher. Everyone meets the criteria. There's also technology assistant teacher. I don't remember.
Going through.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There was a second part to your question, though. I forgot.
So, and yes, no, we haven't reached out to DPAC, but I've written that down and that's a great idea. Thank you.
But DPAC did reach out to me. And so I did talk to DPAC. And one of the things is it was part of the information that all principals are supposed to send through newsletters or at part of their website. And DPAC shared with me that there were some schools that they felt that information hadn't gone out. So then we followed up with those schools to, emphasize the importance of that information.
Thank you. Thanks for all your questions and curiosities and the information that you were both able to share back. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask for a trustee to receive the report, to share the recommendation. Read it out loud for us.
The recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 71 Comox Valley receive the Accessibility Committee report as presented.
By Trustee Howe. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Next, moving on to childcare.
Hi. So, well, trustees, you've met Lisa Peterson-Skeen before, our district principal of childcare and early learning. She's giving us an update today, and just very appreciative of her leadership and collaboration with community, with anything to do with childcare and with primary teachers. So, take it away, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm really excited to share the annual operating report. And I'm just going to reference it because it is in your package. So I'd like to start off by just saying that the first section is all around the childcare that is on our school grounds currently and happening in the spring at Arden and Glacierview. And what I did was connect with everyone early last week and just ask for an update around what are their current licensed spaces, their current enrollment, and their wait lists. I didn't receive information back from everyone, and even though I reached out again, and I would say that's partially due to the crisis around childcare, and we have managers who are on the floor working with kids rather than being in the office. So there are a few blanks in there, but I do hope to get that information. So I did section it out. So the first part is school age care on school grounds. So you can see the different spaces and the enrollments and the wait lists. And then on to group child care, 30 months to school age. Group child care under 36 months. Multi-age child care. And then preschool. So you'll notice that actually our only currently running preschool with children is at Courtney Owl, which I didn't get the numbers from. The other spaces don't have the staffing to run it. We do have the two childcare spaces, which I've seen both of them, and windows are in, and it's really exciting to watch them come to fruition. And now the fun starts as they're finishing off the insides and doing some outdoor work also. So that those hope to be open in May, and the provider is Boys and Girls Club of Central Vancouver Island for both of them. And we have our Strong Start programs. These programs are increasingly getting busier and busier by the day. The programs are noticing one or two students or one or two families in some of them every single day. So they are increasing and hugely popular. And I would say one of the challenges that the Strong Start providers are having is just balancing the relationship with families when there's such a large group. They are trying to be really inclusive, but we do have families that are most often choosing not to attend when they come, just because it's too overwhelming or too many people for them. But we don't really try to limit the numbers that are in there. But sometimes they put up how many families are in there, so they're just aware, because for some children that's really overwhelming. Our Strong Starts do have extra outreach hours, which runs different community programs that work. They work with healthy families. They do multicultural groups, etc. And two of our Strong Start facilitators are also doing outreach hours to build the strengthening transitions to kindergarten. So working with communities and inviting community in to be a part of school events and gym times and library times, and Strong Start times with kindergarten students, which is really fun for the kindergarten students too. And then the next part is the early years collaboration and professional learning. So these are the tables and committees that I sit on. And just to tie in with Tara's presentation, what I did was I then passed on the accessibility survey to the Comox Valley Early Years Collaborative. So then it went out that way to the collaborative. So just multiple ways to get more information from our community. And then we're currently working through the collaborative on 2 research projects. Both are through HELP, looking and understanding how to support our families, and really trying to be proactive in the process. And sometimes it's difficult to work with researchers because they have their work that we want to do, and we've done such a good job in our valley to do research and talk to families. So what the path that we want to take is, what are the barriers that we can change for these families? And we really want to look at action. So looking at the different structures that need to happen so that all families have access to all services. I'm really excited for the next part to announce our Early Years Dinner Series. So I'm passing around the poster that goes with our Early Years Dinner Series, and the next one underneath was the Sparking Inspirations Conference. So with our Early Years Dinner Series this year, we have gone around our planning very differently than in the past years. In the past, it was just school districts, a school district team that planned and organized it. And this year we have a community team planning and organizing it. So it includes the collaborative chair, North Island College early childhood educator, Pacific Care and Resource, kindergarten teacher, strong chart teacher, before and after school care provider, home child care provider, Comox First Nation education manager, myself, and the early years lead teacher. So we're a very diverse group, but we're really coming together. And as you can see in the poster, what we're focusing on is building the puzzle of the early years and really trying to see how we all fit together, what are our different roles, and how we can work together. I'm excited to say, it does say on the report that there was 63 registrants. As of this morning, we're at 75. Vivian asked me as we came in tonight, is there room for everybody? And I'm like, it doesn't matter. We'll make it work. Because to have 75 people from our community, and I'm really proud to say that we have, I believe it is 6 or 7 principals and vice principals who are also coming to that meeting, which is a first to have that many. So it's just really exciting that we have people from all of the areas of the early years, from birth to grade 3 attending. So that's exciting. So we're looking forward to a great night. It is happening tomorrow night at Mark Isfeld. And then we have 2 more dates planned. We're not sure which direction we're going to go because we'll get feedback from the participants and then the committee will decide on our next steps. And then the Sparking Inspiration Conference was one that Jackie took a lead on, and it happened in Nanaimo on the October Pro D Day. And there was over 200 participants from across the island, and it was very, very successful. And we had quite a few teachers from our district go down, and our Strong Start support workers presented on Fresh Air Fridays, and they got a lot of great reviews. The other thing that's happening is the district is helping to support the 2nd annual Growing Together conference. So that is an early years conference that is put on, it's the person who's organizing this year is the chair of the collaborative. And so that will be hosted at Vanier on our February 16th Cody Day. And so they're hoping for about 200 people to come to that. That's just for local people only. Many of the childcares will be shutting down that day. Many of them will be getting paid as professional development, which is a big change for a lot of them who haven't closed down and haven't been paid for professional development. So it's exciting and it's growing in numbers from last year. We continue to work with strengthening early years transitions. And one of the stories that I wanted to share about that was, you know, the strength of relationships when Carlene, for the last couple of years, has hosted a pumpkin patch at Courtney Owl because they couldn't go to the pumpkin patch because of COVID. So she had pumpkins come in, the community school paid for the pumpkins, put all throughout the garden, and various activities were planned outside for the school community and also early years programs to come and visit and Strong Start. Well, this year it was one of those days that was so stormy and they canceled all the activities except for the pumpkins. Every single community partner came. The weather was horrendous, and it just shows the strength of the program that is running at Courtney Owl. At Cumberland, they did a story walk, a Halloween story walk, and the Strong Start program worker was surprised because she said, the kids are coming up to me and thanking me, the older kids in the school. And she says for one of the first times, she really felt like part of the school community, which is absolutely wonderful. That's our goal. And then we had our second day today of changing possibilities for young children. And it's just an amazing group of educators who are really looking deeply at a wonder child, looking at their strengths and seeing what those children, the gifts that they have and how they can grow them but then how they can grow those gifts for other kids also. And then for considerations, our childcare, as you can see by the wait list and the numbers, these numbers are a bit older. They're from 2019. So they're worse now. I don't know the exact numbers. I'm making an assumption they're worse. I'm pretty sure they're worse after talking to families and childcare workers. It's not just our community though, it's provincial, it's national. But we continue to try to support the best ways that we can, but our families are struggling. One of the things that we did notice when I looked at the numbers for spaces, etc., one of the things that shocked me, and I actually reached out to Cumberland, was what we built for was different than what they're licensed for now. And so I just questioned that a little bit. Wondered, like, tell me what's going on. And what they found was there wasn't the need for the after school care as they thought, and they were able to house that program in other ways. So they used that space for 3 to 5 year olds. So that space increased. So they're very flexible in meeting the needs of the community, which is just an amazing thing for Cumberland. And then, yeah, so ECEs are not having qualified ECEs continue to be our biggest problem. And we are, I believe our latest numbers are, we do have the dual credit where they can start to be their ECEA, and I believe there's 16 students enrolled in it for the spring, which is great, but it's an issue. And so when you see the numbers of licensed spaces or the numbers of current enrollment, it's usually due to not enough staff. And then the challenges for Strong Start are just around space. We're cramming a lot of people into spaces, and shared spaces are an issue too, as we're needing spaces for classrooms. That's it. Any question?
Thank you. So what I'm going to do is allow Trustee Caton to scoot back to her spot. And then I'm going to actually ask for the recommendation that we receive the report, and then ask for questions during the motion. So is there a trustee that would like to move the recommendation? Sure. Trustee Howe, could you read it out for us, please?
Yeah, that the Board of Education, School District 71 Comox Valley, received the Childcare and Early Learning Annual Operating Report as presented.
Is there a seconder? I saw Trustee Maysack. Thank you. Now questions from trustees. Are there any questions? I have to turn my head always. I'm so surprised, Trustee. McCammon, they actually have a question.
I just have a quick question. Because the research that you've been doing is so fulsome and so helpful to people in their transition to kindergarten, I was just curious where, whether it's from the collaborative or from the district specifically, that the information of when my child's about to go to kindergarten, which childcare centers are available to them, how close, like where that information, more for the public, just would be accessible to them. And if it's not a direct answer, then maybe it is a suggestion, which I didn't intend it to be. That's okay.
Yeah, there's nothing out there necessarily, because we, as a district, we don't promote what's in our schools.
For after school.
For after school, like I think, like we don't currently right now say, check here or whatever. Like I think when they contact the school says, this is who provides childcare at our school. So it's them contacting school. And I would say that the collaborative doesn't kind of pass that information out. I would say when parents are looking for childcare of any sort, then they usually contact Pacific Care, and then they tell them what's available in the area.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Trustee Mesa.
Thank you so much for all the information. I see two spots where, we just don't have, it doesn't seem to, we don't have the space and we also don't seem to have the workers. I was wondering if you could please clarify on the numbers with Vanier and Lake Trail where the wait list is both at 998.
Yes.
So I mean, that might be the real numbers in a minute, but I just kind of jumped out at me and also that's quite the wait list. And so if you could please.
Yeah, so, and that would be the same, like Cumberland also has over, let's say here, over 600. So for Vanier and Lake Trail, it's all operated by the same person. So they condense the list. So when it's like 998, that's the number they gave me, and I'm sure it's what it is. In saying that, those people that are on that list could be on every other list also. So it's not just one list. They could be on multiple lists. And I'm not sure exactly how accurate the lists are, because as people get childcare, they don't necessarily go and contact the people where they're on the wait list, say, I found childcare too, right? But it still is a huge number for them to continually go through.
See, that's such a great question, because I think everybody who read this went, oh. That's like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
It's very accurate.
Yeah, and I would say, and I would say for the other bigger programs that are in community, they would say the same thing, that their wait lists are hundreds.
See, Aldinger?
I have a curiosity about the Strong Start program and the impact of enrollment pressures. It seems that we are needing, that we have fewer perhaps Strong Start programs than would be the ideal if we had more space for them. Is like, or what would be the ideal number? Would it be one at every school or one every second or third elementary school?
Well, right now we're operating Strong Start on the funding that we have, and they are not opening up any more new funding for Strong Start. So we wouldn't have the opportunity to open up anymore. And currently we are running at all the schools where we should be, needed to be running. The one place that we're not currently running is Aspen, but we hope that will open up in the spring.
So I'm mistaken then that it's more a funding obstacle at this point in terms of opening more rather than a space issue?
Yes.
If I can add that, the industry for quite a few years now hasn't allowed districts to apply for new spaces. So they've stopped that. Yeah, otherwise we probably would apply.
Yeah, I would say my ideal, I think, seeing the strength of how those students families who attend Strong Start transition into schools, I would love to see one at every school.
Thanks for that clarification.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to the trustees for the very thoughtful questions and curiosities on both of these topics. So now we've moved and seconded the motion. All those in favor of receiving the Child Care and Early Learning Annual Operating Report as presented, please raise your hand. Let's see if your hand is right. Sorry, I put the blind spot. Great. Thank you. Opposed? That's carried. Next is item number 9 regarding the open committee of the whole meeting scheduled for January the 16th at 7 p.m. And the topic is library education and technology. And just please note that we won't be having an open committee of the whole meeting in December. Next, item number 10. Is it your lucky number?
For sure.
Moving on to strategic direction and over to the superintendent.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll just share a couple of things tonight. I knew it would be a full agenda, but I do want to just honor one of the things that I have just been so appreciative and humbled by being new to this community, this learning community, is the engagement of so many folks in the growing and raising of children and their education in this district. Again, Deepak here on a foggy winter night. And one of the things I've appreciated so much about Deepak is their relentless advocacy for parents and making sure that our system responds appropriately to concerns and to hopes and aspirations. We have a member of a union who all of my contacts with our union leaders are around moving forward in a positive way around district culture and just a real centering of children. So I do want to just acknowledge that engagement. It is something that I've been humbled by and so appreciative of. And it speaks to a little bit of what Chair Waite shared in her board update, which is also the engagement of our trustees. We had the opportunity to spend, trustees did all of Thursday, all of Friday, and most of the day Saturday in an academy learning with the hopes and aspirations of improving outcomes for children at the center of those conversations. So I'm going to finish with that piece. I want to share a little bit of learning that we all had on Saturday, though I don't think it was necessarily learning so much as affirmation, and I'll finish with that. But before that, I wanted to just mention that I believe it was the October public board meeting where I was quite proud of our preliminary consultation process for the strategic plan. Since that time, we have engaged with Lisa Bernodis McCullough, the former Sea to Sky superintendent and the secondee at the ministry, around the framework for enhanced student learning, to look more fulsomely at the way in which we develop both the strategic plan, but also develop the consultation process for it. And so Lisa is happy to work with the superintendent and the trustees, and will be coming on the first Friday and Saturday after winter break, where trustees will once again be spending time and will be learning and working with her. So I think there'll be an amended and updated strategic planning process that will be made publicly available once we've had that opportunity to work with Lisa. So apologies for that delay, but I think this opportunity doesn't come around very often. We really want to do it in the best way possible and get it as right as we can. I thought after the formality of the Roberts Rules of Order and election process that I would bring up a word that we don't often bring up in public education, especially on board election nights. But I'm going to bring up this word, which is love. Now, this is a word that's complex and has many understandings of, but I wanted to talk about a speaker that we were privileged to listen to on Saturday morning, Kevin Lamoureux from the University of Winnipeg, who reminded us that it is our sacred responsibility, everybody in this circle, it's our sacred responsibility to love and care for our children, the children that are in our system. Now, love can be a bit of an ethereal concept, so I want to just clarify 5 ways that he shared our system can express love in a meaningful way. 1 is that the students we serve see themselves in their teachers, in their leaders, and in the curriculum. 2, kids can feel love if we take the time to honor culture. 3, children can experience love in public schools if they get the message that every single child is capable of succeeding. 4, every single child gets the message that they are strong and capable. And 5, that as a system, we recognize every child that they have gifts and that we create the space for students to share them. And I think it's an appropriate piece to weave into the strategic plan, because in the conversations that we've had with parents, that we've had with staff, and certainly the conversations that we've had in working sessions for trustees, holds those kids in that sacred space and really wanting to see the system reflect that level of care and concern and love for every single one. And I would say, after traveling now to every school, that these concepts are alive and well. But until every child in our system has that experience, we need to be relentless in ensuring that we're doing everything possible that every child gets that message. Every child, every chance, every day. And I hope that our strategic plan captures the spirit of that.
So through the chair, I will speak to the administrative procedure. So on page 14 of your board package, you have a copy of a signed off page from the negotiations with the CUPE Local 439. And this is agreeing to amend the administrative procedures 406 Appendix A and B, which is page 15 and 16. This is just being brought forward for trustees for your information to know that these amendments have been put in place.
Thank you.
Thank you. Under my agenda, so capital annual facility grant report for the 23-24. There's a briefing note in your package from Director of Operation Hesselgrave. So just to point out a few things for the board. So we're receiving about $2.1 million in funding each year to extend the life and preserve our existing facilities. Our focus with these funds are really looking at health and safety matters that may come up, facility changes to address the educational needs, and of course, to maintain critical building matters that need addressing. So it's my understanding, prior to my arrival, that the board received a report on the plan for the 23-24 annual facility grant. That was probably sometime in the spring. And this is intended to provide you with an update on the status of the projects. There's a couple of projects that are deferred, either due to cost or supply issues. But generally speaking, the report is, the work is progressing well. We are into planning now for 24-25. So the funding for the annual facility grant has an April 1 to March 31st, even though our fiscal is July to June. So there's 2 years that cross over in each one of our fiscal years. So work right now is underway on the 24-25 program, and they tend to get dovetailed together. So if one project is over budget and is waiting for money, it tends to slide into the next year. So this report's being brought forward for information. I'm probably not the expert on all the specifics of each of the projects that are underway, but for the board's information.
I'm looking for a trustee to move this recommendation. Trustee Maysat.
That the Board of Education of School District Number 71 Comox Valley accept the annual facility grant update as presented.
Seconder is Trustee Howe. Are there any questions? What this Secretary Treasurer is saying, not sure if he'd be able to provide.
I can make up a great answer.
Do the trustees that the Secretary Treasurer would like to take away? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to accept the grant update as presented is carried. Thank you.
Thank you. So through the chair, the second item in my area relates to the Public Interest Disclosure Act, so PIDA. PIDA comes into force December 31, 2023, so at the end of this month. There is a requirement that boards update their policies. We currently have an administrative procedure on whistleblowing, but it does not satisfy the legislative requirements of PIDA. So the BC Public Schools Employers Association did provide a template policy to all districts to consider. The ad hoc policy committee of the board has considered the PIDA. We've modified the policy to bring in the Comox Valley context, and what you have attached to the briefing note is a multi-page policy 27, which is public interest disclosure, whistleblowing protection. And then starting on page 24 is the administrative procedure that supports the policy. So there is both a policy statement and regulation for the board and an administrative procedure for the being brought in by the superintendent. The recommendation is twofold. One is that the Board of Education approve policy 27. And then the second one is that the Board of Education receive the administrative procedure changes being brought forward by the superintendent. Happy to answer any questions trustees may have.
I'm going to ask for questions first in the event that we need to amend the recommendation. I'm not anticipating, but in this case, I'm this way. Are there any trustees that have any questions or comments regarding the policy or the administrative procedure? Seeing none. Looking for a trustee to move and read this two-part motion. Leslie?
Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 71 Comox Valley approve board policy number 27, public interest disclosure, whistleblower protection as presented, and that the Board of Education receive as information changes to Administrative Procedure 403, public interest disclosure, whistleblower protection as presented.
Thank you. I'm looking for a seconder. You may start. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Opposed? Carried? Thank you. Next, we're moving on to item number 11, which is standing committee reports. And the first item is regarding the open committee of the whole on November 14th, 2023. Looking for Trustee Hamilton.
The Board of Education, School District 71, Comox Valley, received the Open Committee of the Whole report as presented.
Removing that motion, looking for a seconder. Trustee Eldinger, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. 11B is the Board Ad Hoc Policy Committee, November 20th, 2023. Looking for somebody to make this motion. Do you have it with you? Am I reading from the wrong?
I can make the motion.
Okay.
That the Board of Education of School District 71 Comox Valley reads the Ad Hoc Policy Committee Board report as presented.
Great. Thank you. I am reading off my old agenda, so and I caught one revision. So if I'm out of kilter, please somebody let me know.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Thank you. And the seconder, Trustee McConnell-Keen. Any discussion?
Just want to acknowledge, I think the reason is we're just getting used to ad hoc policy committees, and we were unsure whether if we were in that policy committee, it was appropriate to move it. So I think that's why my face is on. So thank you for making clear that it was new. I think in full honesty now, we will do better going forward.
I'd like to share that that in this term as a trustee, or in a previous term, we had a policy committee, and then we sort of moved to a different model, and that we've brought back the policy committee in the form of an ad hoc policy committee. And this was the first meeting of this committee, and from the enthusiasm in the room in the meeting, the trustees and those present are looking forward to moving forward to update our policies as required. Seeing no further hands raised, all those in favor of receiving the ad hoc policy committee board report as presented? Carried. Thank you very much. All right. So moving on to board business. And before we start, I just realized I missed an opportunity. And so I just want to thank the trustees for the opportunity to serve another term as the board chairperson. Thank you for that. And I'll move now to the board business as listed in the agenda. And the first item on the agenda is the Indigenous Education Committee written report.
Chair, I did not attend this meeting. We had trustee Aldinger and Masak who attended. And I was wondering if they would like to offer any highlights. Then the report is on the last page. And if not, it's okay as well.
I'm happy to report that it was an interesting and very fulsome meeting. It was, as I understand it, either the first or the second time that we've been invited to stay for the whole 3 hours. So it was much more fulsome and comprehensive, I think, conversation than being limited to the first hour, where a fair amount of the time is taken with the very lovely tradition of going around the table and meeting everyone. But yeah, it was interesting to go through some of the targeted funding budget with the Indigenous Education Council, talking about, set out in the report, just areas of interest. Thank you. Good opportunity.
I think you went great. I think that my colleague summarized it fantastically.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Just curious if there's any other board business that a trustee wants to share. Being mindful that we had a little bit of time. We'll talk about Academy a little bit. So it, and you captured superintendent for that session, just, yeah, that we attended. Amazing. There is no board correspondence. And now we move on to the question period. And I will ask if through email, if we've received any questions.
We did not.
You're up. Question period.
We did.
And the Secretary Treasurer has indicated that we have not. Just curious if there is any public questions from the public who are here with us tonight. I'm thinking maybe, yes.
Just on behalf of DPAC, congratulations to the trustees that were elected this evening. We look forward to working with you and on in your positions. And just publicly would like to thank our superintendent for the kind words that he just said publicly towards DPAC. That's very nice and we appreciate it. And we look forward to continuing to work with you. That's all. Thank you.
Seeing no further sharing from the public or questions, I would look to a trustee to move adjournment. Trustee McConnell-Keene.
At the Board of Education of School District Number 71, Comox Valley, adjourn this meeting.
Seconder, Trustee Howe. All those in favor?